Hello folks, and welcome to another episode of Send It podcast. I'm here with the honorable and amazing Wajat Mughal. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Excited for this one.
Definitely this time, because this time we have the console team, Brahma Finance. We have the esteemed Alessandro and Kakusan. This is how I should say the name, sir?
Yeah. Kaku-san.
Nice to meet you guys. Excited to talk to you guys about Brahma Finance today and console and whatever you guys are building. So first of all, how are you? What's up?
Yeah, excited to be on, and looking forward to have a good chat today. Thank you.
Amen. So at first, maybe you can just share a bit about yourselves, the team, how you guys even started with your own crypto journey. How long have you been in the industry, and how did you guys started working together on Brahma, and how did the whole thing even start? And then we can get to what the product itself really is, and we can discuss it from there.
For sure. So I guess a quick backstory on the team. So Kaku and I have been working for many years together. It's been more than 8 or 9. Sometimes we remind each other, and we did a mix of things. Crypto is one of them. Started around 2016 from an investment standpoint. So it was mostly about discussing, at that point, it was only white papers, back then. So you were discussing white papers, especially in 2018 and 17 with ICOs, and you were looking at projects and what they were trying to do. So we were basically placing some of our bets, and we then slowly started building products in different industries. So Kaku was focused on fintech. I was actually working in travel tech, per se, in product. And then we got back together to work on crypto full time and assembled a small team. Initially, it was kind of a prop trading operation on centralized exchanges. And it then kind of kept on snowballing until at one point, in 2021, we were saying, okay, what do we want to do here? Do we want to work with DeFi, or do we want to work in centralized markets? And that forked into deciding to work fully on DeFi, kind of a unanimous take on the team. At the time, we were 4 or 5 people, so it was a small team. And then we started Brahma, and then now the team is 20 people. So it was all kind of a journey. But Brahma started with 3 co-founders, Kaku, I, and Bapi, who's not here, our CTO. And it kind of expanded from this kind of R&D trading team all the way to where we are now. So now we added obviously more product people and a lot more engineers to the mix. Yeah.
So when was it that you guys actually started to?
We started Brahma in 2021. So actually 2021 beginning, we as a prop team, we were a bootstrap prop team, and we were looking at DeFi and how to trade there and what to develop, correct? This is the time of Uniswap and SushiSwap V2. So DeFi, wave 1. And then V3 of Uniswap came out, and Barnbridge and this kind of more complicated protocols to use. And we were looking at, okay, do we keep training on them and build strategies, or do we think there's something that we could build as a team that built some products in the past that can help users? And we took the second route in 2021, and we started conceptualizing Brahma. It actually started fully at the end of 2021 when we raised the round, and we kind of had everything finalized, and we scaled the team. But initially it was this R&Ding of what we want to build, and we started building initially smart contract vaults. But our goal was always to improve experience and UX for users. It was hard already to interact and place liquidity on Uniswap. How could a normal user entering the market actually know how to do it? So that was kind of our angle, if it makes sense.
So for you guys, was it the kind of UI UX problem that DeFi offered that you kind of wanted to build upon?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that composability can enable actually interesting both financial products or workflows, but it was getting so hard to do them, correct? Because Uniswap V2 was, hey, deposit liquidity in two tokens, and you had to think about the relationship between the tokens, the weight. But V3 then starts going into price bands and rebalancing them over time and concentrated liquidity, and that was already very hard to grasp for a normal, even a DeFi user actually. So that's kind of we were testing the assumption of can we build a very easy layer for people to automate strategies on Uniswap V3. This was one of our first assumptions. And then we went to the industry, talked to quant traders that we knew and said, hey, do you want to build a strategy, a quant strategy on Uni V3 if we give you the tool set to do it? And most of them said, I don't understand Uniswap V3. It's actually far from trading a normal market and order book. So I don't want to spend time there until it is a big market. And so then we realized even the pros don't know how to interact with this. And then we said, hey, there's a ton of stuff to solve for. And we thought Vaults was the right vehicle, but then we realized it wasn't. And we realized that Vaults are very hard to scale. There's a lot that I can expand there. But every time you build a smart contract vault, you're asking users to deposit money there. And every smart contract will be different if you build different strategies, correct? So we started building strategies that interact with Polygon, some that interact with Optimism and purchase options on Lyra or perpetuals. And everything is different. And user has to look at the risk and say, hey, this is a new product. How can I trust it off the bat? And so it's really hard to develop a smart contract vault or a portfolio of them, audit them, and have the usage right away. And so this all led, in short, to building Console, where we're looking at a self-custodial solution, where we don't ask users to deposit funds in our contracts. We ask them for some trust, obviously, because every product has, but it's very different than having to lay your funds 365 in our contract for it to be auto-compounded. You literally can trust Brahma only at the time of the transaction going out, for example, but without having any proxy between your wallet and the protocol.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So what's actually like, if you have to start explaining to someone who completely has no idea what Brahma or Console actually is, like, what is what did you actually try and build, like, and what were the actually like issues or problems that you wanted to address when you actually started? Like, what is it supposed to solve? What kind of service is it supposed to do? Like, who should be interested? Let's say it like that.
Yeah. So I think maybe let's focus less on vaults and focus on why we got where we are now, as you mentioned. So executing on chain, like doing transactions on chain, it's hard, correct? Like anything from estimating the gas correctly, a transaction gets stuck, a DeFi dApp is compromised on the front end and you don't realize. So managing private keys, so everything is hard. So we didn't want to build a wallet, but we clearly wanted to improve with the infrastructure that is already there and make the experience more repeatable and controllable. Like if you're a user, you want to know that you're in control, that you set some type of permissions that are going to safeguard you when you do stuff, that connecting to a dApp is going to be very reliable, that you can simulate a transaction when you do it. And in the future, what Console aims to do is to actually let you automate things as well, so that for any basic recurring operation, you don't have to worry about it. This is from a normal user. But then so just to give an important background, we as a prop trading and a fund running in crypto, right? We use custodians. So we use Fireblocks, we use Copper, and we use existing solution to manage on-chain interactions as a team. And then we also use Safe a lot and multisigs as Brahma, because Brahma with our own treasury, obviously we custody it in a multisig. Most of the teams do it on Safe. So we figured out the problems in UX that are there to interact with DeFi in either of these solutions, whether it's a normal traditional wallet, a multisig, or an MPC for teams. They all have some flaws in terms of how you interact and the security angles of them, correct? So that's what Console is trying to solve. It's obviously very broad, but we're trying to make execution on chain very controllable and fast, and still retain some layers of security where you at least have much more control compared to a normal MetaMask wallet, to how you sign, what you sign, and measures to prevent even if you've signed the wrong phishing link, correct? And we can explain how this works and show it later. Yeah.
Kakusan, could you tell us a bit from your side as well, just to add on to what Alessandro just said?
So adding on to Alessandro, what he said, basically giving the background of what we were building during Vaults. And if I give certain background of what Vaults we built, was like the first cross-chain vault. So users were coming on the mainnet and we were doing all the bridging to Optimism, buying Lyra, options on Lyra, and then making the whole, let's say, strategy for the user. And that wasn't scalable. But also we were doing a lot of background work in terms of the curve pool calculation, if something's happening on the pool that we are in. Those little things that we realized is that it's needed for each and every transaction that a user does on DeFi. And currently, if someone wants to interact with DeFi, it's just one size fits all. You go on Curve, you connect with MetaMask or any wallet, and you're just doing the same interaction with each and every DeFi app. So what we realized is like if certain users or if anyone wants to interact with DeFi in the future, it cannot be just connecting a wallet and signing transactions, but us as Brahma should know what the user is trying to do, what's the intent, the final intent of the user, and what the actual DApp is trying to do. So UX wise is what we are trying to solve in terms of what is the end goal of the transaction versus how the user is doing. So every time a user interacts with any app, there is a possibility, as Ali explained, that he might get might click on a phishing link, he might set a lot of slippage, there are a lot of things that can go wrong. So we are trying to solve everything possible in DeFi for a power user, and all the execution that happens in DeFi that should go through console. So that's the basic goal of Brahma, because right now there are multiple wallets, there are multiple solutions to interact with crypto in general, but we are building a very vertically integrated DeFi execution platform per se.
I think that's something that really attracted me to console when I first used it as well. Just if you look at like the current wallets and the current systems that we have, they're very poor. It's very difficult to even understand what you're signing if you're using MetaMask. Like if I can't understand it, and I've been in DeFi since DeFi summer, how are the new people or the even the finance people who are from TradFi coming over, how are they going to understand what's going on? It's very, very difficult. And that's what I really loved about console when I first tried it out myself, that you've kind of got this vertical stack where console is essentially this execution layer for everything that you possibly can do within DeFi. You can do it via console, and that's what I really love about it. It's like an all-in-one place for you to do everything in DeFi.
That's a great way
Yes.
to explain it, by the way. That's a great way to present it and explain it, and it leads me actually to for another smaller question, like who's your audience in a way? Like who are are there specific? Is there a specific type of users that you're going after? The power users, the newcomers, or are you trying to build like a product which is one size fits all for everyone that wants to use DeFi? That he should know that console can give him a solution.
I'll answer that. So if you look at like the users right now in crypto in general, most of the users, the speculators, are on centralized exchanges, which come during like the bull market. They go to Binance, they're like buying tokens, they're speculating. I guess 90% of the users stay there, right? I'm assuming again, these are just theoretical like numbers off my head. I'm assuming out of those 100% of the users on Binance, only 10% kind of come on chain, and they start by going to like dApps, trying to like exchange tokens on Uniswap, going on Unibot maybe, trying to gamble. And then out of those users, there are like certain amount of users who are our audience, which are power users who live on chain and who are doing certain like transactions always on chain. They want to uh, like go from one chain to another. They want to bridge. They want to do trades on GMX. They want to do trades on DYDX. So these are like the actual users who are living and breathing DeFi. Now, these are the actual users who are driving most of the liquidity across on-chain, like on-chain platforms. So, they say like top 10% of the users are actually driving 90% of the volume.
Yeah.
So that's our audience. And if you look at like that top 10% of the audience, these are usually first like whales who are single users, single players, and then they're like multiple setups which are like teams. So it can be trading funds or it can be more institutional driven funds. So that's why we have two modes in console if you try. So it's single player, which is like someone like me who manages like most of my money on chain, and I don't use like Binance ever. So I just store everything on like console, because first it's built on safe, and safe is like the gold standard in terms of self custody, and it becomes my on-chain base, right? If ever I have to like send money off chain or send to an external exchange, I just send one transaction, but my base remains on chain. So I can do any transaction via console, connect with any dApp, and do automations. Now the second kind of audience is like more, let's say, multiplayer teams, which I just explained, which can be trading funds or institutions. So it can be like group of 4 or 5 traders who are part of a multi-sig. They want to interact with DeFi. Let's say they want to do market making on Uniswap. They want to trade on GMX, and it's a team let's say operation. So we are targeting these two groups right now.
I guess even DAOs potentially, like for example, us at Leviathan, I guess we could use a product like Console as well to manage our funds.
100%. Actually, like from when we launched on Arbitrum last week, like some of the bigger onboarding that immediately like clicked were actual Arbitrum protocols that immediately tried it out, because protocols are used to using safe, like we briefly described. So every protocol uses safe with their team, and they have some pain points, and we can go into the pain points for different user groups. But when they try console, there would be 1 or 2 things that are key to them, like being able to set policies and delegate some specific actions, things that they cannot do in safe. And so each protocol seems to have 1 or 2 features of console that they really like. The other example is they don't need to pre-fund gas into signer wallets or into their different accounts. They can just maintain one gas tank. Console handles all the execution. So there's different angles, but protocols are a big user base as well, because they are living on safe. So like there's no friction to onboard. It's literally like you connect your safe. Yeah. There's no switching cost. There's no, underlying infrastructure that changes a lot compared to a fund. And we have funds that come from Fireblocks and NPCs, and they do it in different ways. They can port over, or they can create a console with their NPC EOA that they have, so that they maintain both environments, and they can switch back and forth depending on the actions. So there's a lot of flexibility, let's say.
So if you're a user like the advisor or even many of the viewers watching, if you're someone who enjoys DeFi, how do you get it set up on Console? How do you kind of create an account there and kind of get started in the world of Brahma and Console?
Yeah, so like the experience is for now whitelisting based. This is because we want to control like the type of user that we get to give us early feedback, and also up to now we've been building it's been like build mode for about a year with alpha and beta testing, correct? So we wanted to get the right user to actually give us meaningful feedback, even in the bear market, which was hard because people say, hey, we don't do anything on chain. And now they flip 180, correct? So this happened all the time. And then you want to also, as Kaku mentioned, it's a broad user group, but we want to maintain relevance of where the roadmap is going, right? You will have asks from all the places, hey, I want this and that. And I have many examples where we know that if we build that feature, it's a very niche feature for a specific user set. So we're trying to maintain as much overlap as we can. So we whitelist a user that applies. So user currently goes to console, like Brahma.fi. Brahma.fi, there's a request access, and there's a form. You drop your wallet and your Twitter, and you say, hey, I would like to use this, and this is what I would use it for. And then we vet this waiting list for every week pretty much, and we release onboarding spots. And once we whitelist you, you literally, I will show you on the screen later, but you go to console.brahma.fi and you essentially just connect your safe. If you want, you can import an existing safe, or you can create a new safe. And you do all of this, setting signers, threshold, all in one transaction, and it takes like a few minutes. And you don't need to know how to use the safe UI or safe itself, because we abstract that away. But at the end of the process, you literally get a safe that you can use yourself. So you can always go and use it on. Yeah.
That's actually very cool. Can you maybe, is it something that you can show us on the screen, like how someone opens
For sure.
starts using
let me do that.
console?
Yeah, let me do that. 1 sec. All right. Let me know when you see my screen.
Seems like it's popping up now.
Yep, we can see it.
Cool. So This is not a one-to-one new onboarding, because as you can see, I already have plenty of consoles. And by the way, you can have different organizations on consoles. So like Kaku has his own console, and then we have a Brahma console for the team. Then I have my, DAO with Friends console. So you can maintain different consoles with underlying accounts and signers. But let's say you're onboarding, like you would come to console.brahma.fi and you would be thrown directly into the create new console flow. And the way it looks like is like this. I would start from setting up a name. So I can say, this is my sendit console, and I can go ahead and decide whether I want to set up a new safe or import an existing one, correct? If my connected address has safes that they own, I just click import, and it will automatically check all of the safes that I own. I'm a degen, as you can see, so I have a ton of safes, but normally people would have one or two, so they would select the one they want to import, or they can create a new one. So if I want to create a new one, I literally have my connected EOA as an address here, and I can just add whatever other address I want to. I guess you don't see my EOA popping up now, but I'm just picking a random address. So I can add a second address and decide, hey, this is a 1 out of 2 or 3 out of 5, whatever you want. And once you're done, you basically select the gas payment token. Today we have ETH, but in the next release we will have USDC as well, because we have a relayer. Cool. So you can choose what you want to pay gas in, and then that's it. You get a review, and you're saying, yeah, you're creating a safe with 2 owners, 1 out of 2 threshold. This is how much it's going to cost you, and gas token in ETH, and you execute. And my EOA is popping up now, my Rabbi, which you don't see, and I literally just signed this, which I'm doing now in the EOA, and now my console is being deployed, and that's it. My sendit console is created in like few seconds, and I can click and go into it. And this is your onboarding for you. It's like a 1-minute onboarding. And now I've created a console. I have an onboarding video, some, tooltips, whatever, but that's it. This is a safe. If I now go and pick up this address finishing with A12 and I add it on safe.global, which I can do live for you. So sorry, I have so many safes. So one sec.
What a legend.
One sec. I need to connect the same wallet, which was on ARB. I mean, I can show you, but I thought I already had connected the wallet. But yeah, essentially you can really import an existing safe account, and also on Arbitrum. You can see all the safes that I created for the different testing. This one is A12. It should be either there, or I can import it myself. So either whenever you import a safe, you essentially just add it, right? And then you give it a name, and then now you can basically use this safe directly from safe.global, and you can review the transactions that happen and all of that. And we also have, by the way, a recovery tool, which I will explain later, where you can easily detach console from your safes. It's a IPFS hosted recovery tool. So it's one transaction again that it takes to ever get control of all of your safes back, to access it directly and perform transaction there. So everything we do is to be fully compatible with safe. So self-custodial, even if our backend or frontend are fully down, you can basically get access to your safe at any time. And once you have a real console, which looks like this, so like a real console, I mean, this, for example, has 7 safes in it, right? 6, sorry. One main account that I imported, which is the one I just showed you in onboarding. And then I created sub-accounts under it. And sub-accounts are literally separate safes that you can put separate permissions on, separate people that can access them and perform transaction. And you can literally navigate just with a click between each of the safes. As you can see, this is my main account, and I can see positions that are opened on this account. I can wallet connect and connect to any dApp. I can directly swap in this console without having to connect to 1inch, for example. We allow you to do it directly here. So you can get a quote for your swap. You can multi-sign with your signers. And there's a lot more I can show you. I can stop here or go deeper, of course.
So basically, if I understand correctly, when someone learns how to actually use a console, all of a sudden you need to enter, you don't need to enter as many dApps and all that kind of stuff. Like you really are, you can do so much of what you want to do on chain, or maybe even all of it if you want. directly from the console interface?
Yes, essentially, like you have to think that using an EOA is very easy and a flow that people understand. I mean, going to app.uniswap and then connecting your MetaMask and signing transaction from there. That's the flow that people know. Using a multisig is a bit more complex. Normally, you would have to use Wallet Connect to connect to the dApp, and then you do an action on Uniswap, which comes to your multisig, and then you prepare the transaction there. This is how it is also for console, but we abstracted a lot of steps. And I'll give you an example. First example is that you can easily batch transaction on top of each other. So you can control multiple accounts directly from here instead of like having to navigate. Secondly, like the example I gave you for swap can be done directly here without having to connect, sign an approval, sign and swap, right? Next, that we're launching this week, actually, which I would love to show you soon, is lending actions. So you want to create an open position on Aave or manage it. You can literally prepare the whole position that you want to do. Like, I want to supply collateral A, B, C. I want to borrow this other token, and I want to swap the borrowed token into whatever other token. This you can literally plan it in the console UI and then execute it all in one go. And the way it looks, just to give an example, when I'm doing something like, I can add an owner to one of my sub accounts, okay? I'll just give an example. We have an address book, I can choose, change the threshold, and I can click change. Now my transaction is started to be built here. You can see that I'm adding an operator to one of the accounts. And then let's say that I want to pull some money out of another account. I can literally click on pool, and I can say I want to pull all of the money in this sub account, almost like a sex trading sub account UX. I can pull them back to my main account. And then I want to send some money in one of the accounts. So I want to transfer from my main account to this new sub account that I created, where maybe Wajahat is like operating on, and doing some trades together. So I can do this, and I'm literally building a very complex in principle transaction that modifies different safes, but I'm doing it all in one go. And most importantly, the context is written in plain English for me. So you see that I'm sending some money from an account back to my main account. I'm adding an owner here, and I'm also sending some money to and funding one sub account. And this is some of the example compared to the normal UI of having to connect to a dApp or switch between a safe, prepare a transaction, propose it, sign it, and then do the second one. And so I can do all of this in once. And and the second part that we do very well, we show you what happened in a transaction historically again in plain English. So right now, if I did a swap, I would see the buy price that I got for this swap, the quantity I swapped, without having to go to Etherscan. If I change the threshold, signature threshold of the sub account, then I see it here. If I send some money somewhere, if I use GMX and open a per position, it would show here. So this is how it changes a bit the experience. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that helps a lot actually, and that's quite cool, to be honest. By the way, is there also like a gas optimization element? Like, for example, will it be cheaper to do it this way as well, instead of manually doing all these transactions separately, or is it just a convenience issue?
No, it's cheaper, especially if you do complex transactions, which means they have many steps. So smart accounts are natively more expensive than an EOA because they have extra logic, correct? They're a smart contract. But when you batch transactions together, especially if you're managing a big position that has multiple steps, that would save a lot of gas. And but console focuses also on the speed of execution, meaning it selects the RPC that you should use for this transaction so that it kind of optimizes the transaction from when you sign it to when it's done. And obviously, if you batch actions together, you get the whole position rebalanced in one block rather than having to do 5 transactions for it. So
that's cool.
It's a mix of price versus speed.
Finish your sentence, Alessandro. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. It's a balance of price versus speed. Different users will want different things, but we can offer both. Yeah.
For instance, like it goes much more deeper. So we know what kind of transaction you're doing, for example. So console understands that, okay, you're doing a swap, or you're doing a rebalancing, or you're doing like a payment, right? So we kind of recognize the type of transaction and then send that transaction to a particular RPC. So let's say if it's a swap transaction, it goes through flash bots or MEV resistant RPC. depending on what kind of transaction is happening. So we internally monitor and rate different RPCs. So every time you're doing a transaction, we make sure that your transaction goes through the most suitable RPC.
That is amazing. Honestly,
Yeah.
that is so underrated. I think we need to highlight that again. So really, your transactions will go through RPCs that are most appropriate for the type of transaction. And this is something that I've suffered with. I'm sure many people have suffered with in the past. We've all had those sandwich attacks, killers when we're doing transactions on Uniswap or whatever. But if you were to use console, you don't have to worry about that because you're going to use MEV protection RPCs. Whereas if you're doing kind of other transactions, they'll use other RPCs that are more efficient to use. Having all of that abstracted away is amazing, amazing.
Exactly. Like this transaction I'm showing you here, right? I'm modifying the operators. I'm sending some money back and forth. I'm not performing any swap. So sending it by default through a Flashbots RPC would be a waste of time and cost usually, correct?
Yeah.
So that's example. Yeah. And as you say, it can affect everybody, but obviously in a trader or pro user, this is also a matter of like speed and finality of the transaction. So if a transaction gets stuck, console will retry it for you. And like really from when you sign, the gas estimation, the RPC choice, and the status of the transaction is managed by the console relayer. So you don't have to worry about that. So that's I guess one of the big benefits in execution that we work on with the team.
That's brilliant. One question I wanted to ask is, let's say you've got three transactions on screen right now, and let's say if you wanted to execute that in 1 hour's time, is there a way that you can do that?
Not today, but effectively, what automation in console means is that once you build a batch, correct, which is what I'm showing you here, you have the call data that you are planning to execute, and you can say, hey, automate it to execute this when the price of an asset changes or when the APY of a pool changes or whatever. So in theory, yes, it can be part of the automation recipes, and it's one of the simple ones. And we did that with DCA in the version 1 of console, which I think you haven't tried because it's now being rebuilt on this new architecture for V2. But DCA was essentially that, correct? A time interval at which we would send a slice of a swap for you. So you could pre-sign and say, in my 5 out of 8 signature safe, I sign once, and I say that I want 10 executions for this token to be bought, correct, over time. And then we will basically keep track of the time and execute a slice at every interval. So it's similar to what you mentioned.
So what you're saying is essentially in the near future, we might be able to use console in a way where, let's say, if we are providing liquidity onto a DEX and the APR drops from 25 to 20%, when it drops below 20%, we can have an execution in place where it'll remove our funds because the APR has dropped. Or let's say if we're in a lending market and let's say if the TVL is 10 million and it drops to 5 million, we can set up some sort of transaction that will remove our funds if that is the case.
Yes.
And that's actually, if I understand correctly, that's something you set up in advance, and then you kind of know that you're protected because, okay, if that happens, I don't need to worry. I don't have to find out about it, and then only a few hours later to withdraw it, and there's gas fees and whatever.
That's
so
amazing.
So cool, actually.
There are
That's
two
so
kinds
cool.
of automations. One is that we expose and we build internally to show what automations can do. Other one is like if you can code, we expose our API. So you can create your own conditions on your machine on your backend, and you can send triggers. So you can create anything that you can imagine, and we batch uh, we execute through safe. So your keys are always with you, and there is absolutely, let's say, no chance of risk that vaults are exposed to, because there is no honeypot risk or
No
keys.
custody.
We have no custody. So custody always remains with you, and you are essentially doing all the automations through your backend. So this is for like trading teams, which they essentially do. And what we used to do with when we were managing our funds on Binance, we were running our own signals, and we were sending like signals to Binance to do some trading. So imagine you are sending signals to do absolutely anything on chain. So that's what console allows.
That's so cool. And actually, you know, it's such an important aspect of the crypto industry, which is still not that much addressed. You know, the whole issues, the whole point, like the whole subject, I'm sorry, of user experience and like how do we actually do stuff that it's actually like, I don't know, comfortable and you don't have to like educate yourself on 70 new websites and dapps on how to do this or do that. The project, I will say it like this. I think the team that will actually solve this issue in a good way, that will serve a big part of the people who are actually using stuff on chain, there's a huge win to take there. Like someone's going to win that battle, and it seems like you're going for it. At least try.
Yeah, I think the type of users are so different that, as we said, right, you could build only for the pro user. Like we have funds that say, I don't want you to set up a lending automation on the UX. I don't want to tell you when I want to rebalance my loan. I want to just do it. So the API is the reason, the answer. And then you have the more average user that would say, no, I want an easy way to customize an automation on the UI. So kind of going for both is a big endeavor. So we're trying to build the base, like the baseline is basically ready to be added to console for both. And then we see which user really benefits the most from what we do. But as Kaku said, the API way, which is for a pro trader, it's actually to expose automations to third party. So the real vision is that a third party, like a trading team or a security provider, can build an automation that then they can serve to the whole console user base of Degens, for example. And then you don't have to trust us, the Brahma team, to properly run the automation trigger. You already trust us for the integrity of the UX, the policies that you set and that are checked on every transaction that goes out. So now you decide who to trust on the third party for your automation needs, knowing that every transaction they automate goes through the policy of console from the Brahma side. So even if the executor of the automation tries to do something wrong, the policy will block it, correct? So, and you have sub accounts, so you can decide only one sub account can automate this position, and it's fully segregated because they're totally different wallets, if it makes sense. So it's a big combination of features that we need to really get right for this to be scalable for everybody. Yeah.
So when can we expect this to be available for lots of the other community? I know right now we've been doing a lot of beta testing. What's kind of the next steps?
So I think the only reason why like console is super stable, and I think generally speaking, everybody that gets access gives us relatively good feedback, apart from like improve the onboarding here or that, but they give us really good feedback on the UX. But you have to imagine that we started from scratch building feature by feature, and now it's coming on par with managing your assets on a wallet, correct? Like in terms of UX. Before we started with only the DCA automation, but you couldn't do anything else. You couldn't like swap, you couldn't connect to Wallet Connect. So now we're there where the functionality set, apart from automation, is basically really, really good. So this week we launched lending actions, what I mentioned of planning and rebalancing a lending position in one go. And then right after that, we're launching automations, meaning automate the loan rebalancing based on the health factor, for example, correct, of the position. So kind of like it's really soon. It's like this month where you can experience this firsthand, and then scaling automations to a portfolio of them is what we have to work a lot on, both internally and with third parties. So making this a really cool menu, that you come as a normal user that never heard of us, and you have something that you'd like to try. It means that you have to build at least 5 to 10 automations that cover different use cases. So restaking and staking automations, lending automations, swap automations, for example. A bouquet of it. Yeah.
And I imagine building all of this has been not the easiest. I'm sure there were challenges along the way. Tell us about the building process from kind of starting off with just automation or DCA automation to where we are today. Even that seems like quite a big jump. Like tell us about kind of what that was like, what that journey was like, and if there were issues along the way, and kind of how you solved those issues.
Kaku, okay, so like really the most of all of the ideation came from Kaku primarily. So just to set the stage, this is like end of 2019, well, end of 2022, correct? So November 2022, we're running vaults. They're going okay. We never had like a general incident like the vaults automate well. We have some users. Actually, we were in a growth kind of stage of the user base, but we were not satisfied. We knew that this was not to the full extent of what the team could build, and it was not scalable, as we said. So this is what internally we were discussing. And then we said, okay, what are the ideas? And we literally kind of whiteboarded multiple ideas. And then console was proposed by Kaku with Bapi, and it was chosen as one of the most important ideas that could really materialize. Another idea was, what were the other two ideas, Kaku? There was...
I even forgot, but at the end, like what we were building with Vaults was to simplify like DeFi, right, for users and the developers, because DeFi is like really hard, and like now as well. Uh, the point is developers build a very complex primitive, and users are confused on what to do, and they only come and like deposit only for airdropping, right? So the actual use case is never achieved. So yeah, after like looking at different ideas for how can we solve DeFi, we kind of figured like we as a company, as a protocol, we are always trusting our like money with safe, and like almost every team like in crypto is, apart from the retail audience who doesn't know what safe is. So one aspect was clear that we should just focus on like execution and do what we are best at, which is DeFi, and take away the custody process, because that's where most of the money goes in terms of your security expenses, your audit budgets, etc. So the part about DeFi is like building on top of like giants and like combining the best tech that open source software has built, and no one was actually utilizing it. And what we essentially thought was, okay, we're going to just take the best custody tech and make that programmable, because no one actually did it in like 4 or 5 years of like safe being live. So that was the idea that we begin with. Then we started going into, okay, how do we implement? And that's what Ale was saying, that V1, beta, V2, that's how we progressed. But it's been very hard because there were absolutely no users to test on during bear market. uh, and
And also no
especially,
playbook, right? No
yeah.
playbook for what we're building. Like there was no comparable in terms of being built on Safe. So Safe has a concept of modules and some layer of like ecosystem being built at the time, meaning like, hey, you can build a module this way, you can build a guard, but it was like at the early stage. Now Safe really pushing that direction with the Safe Core SDK. This was launched after we started building. So a lot of what we built is from scratch today, rather than leveraging what Safe has built for builders now. So that was one of the challenges.
Also, for now, like defining the category, right? We are not a wallet, so how do we define ourselves? So we always think like, who are we? We are always think like we are what comes after wallet. So if you are doing DeFi, just connecting your wallet isn't enough. We are that thing that comes after wallet. So that's the challenges that we are facing now. Like,
Yeah.
how do we educate a user what we are? Because it's such a new thing, and there is no playbook, as Ale said. We could have just built a new perp dex if I think about it. Easier, but no point.
I
Yeah.
think you guys, I think you guys are kind of building a DeFi hub, maybe you could say, or maybe you have like a
It's
better.
No, like now we're playing, for example, like Delphi was covering console recently, and they talked about the interaction layer of DeFi. So they were looking at how teams are trying to put more context into DeFi actions and make them, again, easier to execute and with more control. So the interaction layer, meaning how do you interact from your wallets to the actual DeFi? So we're toying with that. I've been always a proponent of the execution layer, because when I primarily do B2B in terms of funds and protocols and talk to teams. So when I talk to funds and they ask us why this is better than an NPC, at the end, a lot of it comes to batching transactions and basically automation capabilities and the whole execution stack that we discussed before, from the signature all the way to getting you fast and well executed. This is something that EOAs and NPCs don't really offer. So I'm really big proponent of execution, but I think Wajahat is the expert here, where we have to reach now an audience which is short time span and degen as well, because the audience appeared out of nowhere again, correct? Like we were building this for a year. There was none of these players there, nobody. And then out of nowhere, like points and farming came out again from nowhere. And now it's like ETF and points have been the narratives, correct? So we're thinking of how to position this in a simplified way that surfaces one or two benefits for the users, this type of users. With protocols and funds, we kind of got it, and it's a one-to-one discussion. But here we're talking about general branding. How do you explain it with a narrative that makes sense to the end user and they get? So that's something that has been challenging throughout the market that changes so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the way that you describe it, Alessandro. I like whenever I think of console, I just think of it is the execution layer in crypto. It is the place to be for execution. That's how I think of it in my head anyway. It's like the vertical execution stack all in one place. That's console.
That's one way. Yeah.
By the way, is there currently any competition on that front? Like, is anyone else trying to build something which is even similar to what you guys are doing, or do you guys are like all alone on that front for now?
No, I think you can never be all alone. So I think there's different ways to look at it. But let's take an example. Smart contract wallet and account abstraction narrative, correct? There's a lot of smart wallets being built, both natively and on top of other wallets, Safe being the primary one. Then I guess there's only like Biconomy or like there's not many wallets that have like Stack to be built on top of. There's a couple of peers that are building on top of Safe, and some focused on DAOs, correct? Protocols and DAOs, like governance, and some focused on individual, like high net worth individuals, like one in particular. And so like at the end, there's a lot to be improved on the Safe UX. So everybody's doing, like there's some great teams apart from us building in this category in a way. But we are at least, I think, the key one doing this for a multiplayer approach, which means like multi-user organizations, multiple accounts, and especially access control, which is transaction policies that automatically screen your transaction. So there are peers, and we will eventually converge, because if console gets a lot of traction on degens and individuals, which it is looking like it is one of the good things, then we will overlap to another company and we become competing. And maybe they come our way because they want to service team eventually. So yeah,
but
so there is some.
But right now in DeFi, I guess right now no one's focusing on this vertical, but there are other verticals.
That's actually cool. By the way, can I ask a very left curve question for the very simple user?
One token, no.
No, one token is maybe for the alpha later, but slightly to the right than the one token question, but only slightly. When, like for example, if a simple user hears about console and he sees it as I don't know, like a funny, like a good instrument for him to, like you said, execute his transactions. Does it even apply for like the smallest of stuff? Like in a way, do I know that if I do a trade using the console interface, does it automatically like find me the best trade online? Am I covered on that front, or?
So,
like and by the way, how is it done? Like, how do you guys choose not only the RPC, but do you also route to the best trade? Because I really think that if you want to become like the execution layer, then so much of that stuff needs to be like even out of the question. You know, that like the user doesn't even have to know about I don't know cow swap and DeFi llama swap and one end and because who cares? You know.
So for the specific swap, which is the most volume on chain, uh, we offer integrations with multiple providers, and we fetch multiple, let's say, quotes for simple swap. So right now we are integrated with DeFi Llama using their API. Then Socket Li-Fi, they offer fallbacks as well. So if one fails, the one is always there. So we give like the best execution because we go over like 1 inch Uniswap, DeFi Llama, every on-chain provider. So whenever a user comes in, if they want to swap, they get the exact same rate or even better rate from aggregators. So on DeFi Llama, that's aggregating all the aggregators. we are aggregating DeFi Llama as well and other providers individually. So we try to fetch the best code. And when it comes to execution, we, as I explained, we send it for the user through the best RPC so they don't get sandwiched, etc. So if you think about it, on chain you have, sorry, off chain you have Binance, where users keep all of their funds, they do all the trading. But when it comes to on chain, it's so fragmented that users have multiple wallets. So if a good comparison, if I have to give for a user, is like it is like comparable to Binance. So it's like on chain like hub, as you said, where you keep all your money on chain from Binance or any exchange, and you are sending out to different wallets, you're sending out to anyone, you're engaging with any dApp through us. So in that sense, it's an execution.
And,
Like,
and and the alpha on that is not alpha, but like some users ask us, hey, I store my funds on console. Now I want to trade something which is better to be traded on Binance, correct? Deeper liquidity or just better pricing. We are going to make it very easy to push and pull funds from exchanges eventually. So this is like as Kaku says, is a place where you can store funds, and we want you to store there, but we will help you get faster to the best trade venue that you want. On chain, it's one transaction and one click, like I showed you. No separate approval, no extra connection. You just open a swap, get the quote, set the slippage, and execute. But we will also support you leaving to a venue and coming back when there's deeper liquidity eventually.
so imagine a flow when you are on console, you click and you get your money, you withdraw money from your Binance account, Bybit account, and it comes to your main safe. And then from the main safe, you can send it back to your off ramp anywhere through one click. And we don't store your API keys. We don't do anything. It's all on your control. It's just about making the process between the off chain and on chain much easier for the user.
Exactly. It's the UX. We really aim to improve your UX to swap. We don't aim to build our own aggregator fully right now because there's so much we have to do. Now we want to make you bridge in the app, correct? So we could spend more time on swap and make swap V3 with a lot deeper data, but then we don't have bridging yet in the app, and we have an Ethereum console and an Arbitrum console. By the way, we have same address across chains, which is something that a lot of people complain about on Safe. So now we will add more chains to it, Base, Optimism, and the likes. So in-app bridging on console will look like the swap. I want to bridge to my other chain console. One click, you get the rates, you select and you go. So UX is the core thing we want to solve for the key verticals. And then improvements will come in many ways. Yeah.
So the bridging aspect is something that is still being worked on?
The bridging?
Yeah.
Bridging is next.
Or can I already use console to bridge from?
Oh, you can just connect with Wallet Connect into Jumper or Socket and bridge yourself, or the native bridge. But we want to expose it the way you see the swap in console, like no connection, no extra approval, everything in one go. This is coming next month. So like that's why I say we're really building the key pillars and then scale it to many users. When you have like 2 free chains with bridging, automation for lending, swapping, and some farming stuff, then you can really address, I think, 80% of on-chain users. So that's kind of the game plan for Q1.
Yeah, I'm excited about that because my on-chain activities is pretty degen at times. Don't get me wrong, I use Ethereum and Arbitrum a lot, but I also use many of the other chains that are out there. I think it'd be really cool, to eventually even imagine just integrating non-EVM chains. That would be really cool. And I guess maybe that would be something in the future that probably could come.
That's tough because we use Safe as Rails, so EVM.
Of course.
Similar to how we talked about sexes or just managing connections, you could think of managing connections. I mean, at least safety for wallet connections, meaning addresses and address book, which we already have. So there are ways, but we can't be, that's what an MPC shines at, right? Being chain agnostic, but we shine at having, a lot of UX improvements when you're on the chain that we can understand, meaning, again, context, history, decoded, simulation, decoded, all of that. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a few things to look forward to, including multi-EVM chain. coming up as well.
Yeah. By the way, I'm also
sure.
thinking about something else. Like I'm just wondering, like in the future, in your vision, that hopefully we'll get to talk about a bit more in detail in a few minutes. But like, do you see a future in which I'm using my like I'm on console, and then I want to, do this and this transaction, farm this, swap that, send that guy money, send that DAO money, whoever, but also take some of that, the new earnings and maybe send them to my bank account. Like, do you see it happening one day, like directly from the console app,
Yes.
withdraw?
So the most native way to do this is thinking about crypto cards. And there's multiple that we already have relationship with. So there's like Oli Health that has an amazing like card based on wallets. There's Gnosis Pay coming up. There's multiple. So there's Based that is fully built on Safe. So like you can basically think of automations like what you just mentioned. We have been asked for it. This is a very degen or individual focus thing, but let's say you're farming a position and you want to claim yield every X days or week and auto send it to your debit card. Just to start something that is purely crypto native, we can easily facilitate this. The bank part depends on the bank support. So example, we bank with Signum as a company. I could do the same exact flow, correct? But I could not instruct the bank to pull back unless they give me an API. But anyways, this is something that we can totally think of, yeah.
That's going to be cool, actually.
Actually, anyone can build that feature on console using API.
That's the point as well, yeah.
They can expose it to their users and ask console users to subscribe to their automations using the API. So we don't have to
Yeah.
build everything.
Yeah.
So now
API
we're
can build that.
we're speaking to custodians, for example, correct? And we have a specific custodian that is looking for DeFi interaction layer, right? Because they cannot support that. So a direct two-way interaction with a good custodian or bank or card is what you need here, built by them with us or by us with them. Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. One question I had is, as far as I'm aware, there isn't a fee to use Brahma, and I wanted to just ask kind of what the revenue model was behind the business and how you kind of look to potentially scale that in future as well.
So I think, again, unfortunately, because of the amount of user types, it's very hard to give a straight answer. So when you look at teams and let's say teams, protocols, funds, asset managers, those are used to use solutions like example NPCs, which are very intransparently priced. Custodians and NPC have a one-on-one pricing. It's usually environment fee, correct? How many people, how many wallets, whatever. We want to be sure that the 80% of users have a very clear pricing scheme. So the most straightforward way and least friction is to charge on transaction volume and make a very specific, easy to grasp basis point fee on every execution you do that uses the console infrastructure, correct? Because you get the extra security, you get the layer auto executing and improving the gas. So eventually, maybe we can even take it from positive slippage or positive execution improvement in the future. So that would be the goal. It's really hard to calculate volume on chain because you can do any kind of action with any kind of token, but that would be how we want to make it zero friction and opt-in, If you don't transact a lot or don't use the tooling, you don't pay, kind of. And for teams, we will make kind of a custom one-to-one, which we're doing now because I can give you examples. We have VC funds that have maybe a certain AUM on console today, and then they invest free investments, and it goes up 10x. So, right, we want to make sure we charge them based on how much they hold on console and how complex their environment is. So teams, one-to-one, individuals and instant onboarding users, fixed transaction volume fee. Automations will cost a bit more because they require monitoring infrastructure to be up and running 24/7.
How are you guys funded up to now, if I can ask, of course?
Yeah.
Because, if you're working and you're 20 people, this is no joke. This is a huge operation and building such amazing stuff.
So we raised right out of the first initial Brahma version with the first vault, we kind of raised the round back then. So this was kind of DeFi summer, and we raised in end of 2021. And we had a seed round with really good investors like Framework led it, Maven 11, Dialectic, Lightspeed, like really good fund, and also angels from a product, side. And then we subsequently raised an extension round of 2.5 million this year, backed by Greenfield, and also again Framework and Maven reparticipated, BitScale. So essentially, we are funded by 2 rounds right now. But the most important thing is we are 20 people that scaled now. So we had a lot of like linear scaling. We never scaled a lot in the bull market and then had to restructure the company, correct? We went the other way. We kept very, very tight expenses, tight salaries, tight everything, no conference sponsorship, no nothing.
No Lambos?
No Lambos, nothing. And that got us to like really be sustainable. Even if we didn't raise the extension, we would have been still here without doing any changes. But we raised the extension because it was full bear market. We were launching console and showing it to funds, correct? Because my target was funds. In bear market, no degens were doing much. So my funds were like the sticky users I wanted. So I went on like 130 demos approx in a couple of months and literally demoed every fund I could for feedback. This was console V1, nothing like I showed you, a prototype on Figma. And then we got inbound saying, hey guys, when are you raising next in a bear market? So we said, hey, it would be kind of irresponsible to say, hey, we have some money in the bank, don't take it, because our investors said, hey, you don't know how long the bear market will last for. So that's the backstory. But essentially, yeah, that's how we got here. And now we just wanted to launch console and scale it and then prove that like the team can do a lot. And we are kind of not even halfway, but at least the product is there. Now people can touch and feel it and see what we built. Now it's about scaling it, meaning what Jahad said, like getting in the hands of a lot of people and show that it can handle a lot of volume and flow. Yeah.
It actually leads me to another question I'm curious about, which is marketing. Like because now okay, you've ran the alpha version, the beta version. Product is shaping up. It looks honestly extremely interesting. What are you guys thinking in terms of like marketing it and really getting it out there and getting more and more users from all types that you're interested in? Because it's like you said, it's a divided effort, probably because of the different audiences. How do you guys intend on getting a bigger reach and getting more people to use it actually?
So our focus, as I said, like we are focusing on the top 10% of the users. Like doing point system is enticing, right? We did it actually last year while doing vaults. Our point system was called Karma, and we had a lot of inbound during bear market. But now we realize that even during like those point farming, you're not getting the real sticky users, and you might get like a lot of farmers. So our idea right now, again, it might change, you never know. But the idea right now is to focus on the top 10% of the users who actually drive the volume and they actually use the product which it's built for. So it's more one-on-one, let's say, conversation that Alessandro and the BD team has. We just got someone in the marketing team and we started like pushing marketing now. If you see, we are starting to communicate what console does. We are trying to like push like explain what console is doing and what you can do. A lot of videos that you'll see right now. So it's more of an education point of view, telling users what safe is, what console is, what DeFi is, and actually partnering with most of the DeFi protocols, right? So we'll be building like on top of, for example, Morpho now. So we'll be like doing automations on top of them. Morpho Blue will be building on top of, let's say, GMX and different Arbitrum protocols. Then we'll launch on Base, so it's like chain partnerships. So you'll kind of see on how like marketing forms up, but it's more about working closely with different EVM ecosystems and setting like console as like the standard for custody and execution. So that's the position that we're going for.
And one important note is we launched on Arbitrum a week back, correct? Before we were only on mainnet. That seriously like limited the amount of testing or users that we could onboard as well, even if we wanted to, because it's so expensive to transact. So now since we launched on Arbitrum, we saw that marketing plus product are really synced, correct? Because we can really do a campaign for a specific use case, like risk-taking UX or automation and get a lot of inbound and actually onboard them right away. Before it was more like a BD flow, like Kaku said. Like we speak to one-on-one to big teams or funds or protocols, and we talk about what we can do in the future with them and onboarding them. And then they onboard, they slowly try it. Now it's becoming more like a reactive marketing on the side where you have content and a lot of push that can bring instant feedback in because we're live on L2s. Yeah.
I think so far you guys have done a good job with that as well. Francesco is a great addition to your team, someone that I know really well. And I think hopefully your marketing is just going to go up only as well. Your engagement, I should say, and kind of how that returns into console with your users. And I think getting sticky users is always difficult. I think we're seeing that right now with some of these point systems and airdrop farmers, seal bills. They come for the free money, and I guess
Yes.
it is a bit hard to kind of find the right balance there. But I think you guys are doing a good job so far with what you're doing.
Yes, and I think historically yield has been the key point of marketing in crypto, correct? And we saw it with vaults, and we've always been very conservative in advertising, transient yields. But so with console, it's much more important to highlight the right use case. So it's about kind of recognizing a narrative when it's forming, build the actual UX use case in console quickly, which we can now, and then expose it to the users in a digestible format. Yeah.
No, that's brilliant.
Francesco is also, he's such a great guy. I was in Italy, it's not related, but I was in Italy last year, and I told him, and he was like, giving me tips about stuff and whatever. That's so cool. And it also makes me curious because you said that you guys are 20 people. Are you how global are you guys? Is there are some of you a lot of you in Italy or a lot of you in whatever? I'm just guessing because your name is Alessandro and he's Francesco.
No. I'm Italian right now. I'm between Germany and Switzerland, but irrespectively, Francesco is the only Italian that ever joined us, and so far, and we met him through Castle because Castle was already a demo. I actually demoed Castle Capital as a potential console user, and then we met Francesco together with Kaku at Dev Connect in Istanbul again, where he was already looking at writing some content outside of Brahma, and then we sat down, and it all happened like that. But the team is very global right now, so we tend to be around the European time zone, so no US and no crazy time zone apart from Brazil. So we have one person in Brazil, then we have India, we have different parts of Europe, we have Abu Dhabi, we have what else do we have? We have Ukraine, Greece, really mixed South Africa, really mixed team, yeah.
This crypto is so cool on that aspect,
Crypto is so cool. We hire people by merit rather than location. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it also, I think it allows the creation of these new type of organizations that is really, it's very different culturally than an organization that is just set up at a specific place with a specific culture, like an American organization or an Israeli organization or whatever. When you do it like that, there's a specific culture that runs things, and even if people don't talk about it or put much attention into it, it's built in. People we're human beings. We can't disconnect from our culture. And in crypto, it's it's such a diverse team, but actual diversity, not diversity when you want to present something as if it's diverse, but it's actually the exact same culture and it's just trying to look diverse. Here in crypto, we actually have actually diverse teams which join for an actual vision, for an actual idea that they want to promote, and they bring their different cultures because they're united by a specific idea. And I think that it's one of the things that for me is most fascinating.
And experience, right? Because if you look at tech, there's a lot of tech startups is up and coming with COVID especially. But if you look at experience diversity, in crypto, you really have the 18-year-old coming out of nowhere. We had so many recent college graduate that became the highest like output people in our team by just being extremely driven, and they came out of like code written or action done rather than like Dennis came from the community, for example, DZ, by contributing to Brahma before even being engaged in any way. Francesco similarly, and developers also. We had developers running in a hackathon, building the first version of Karma, and then they immediately dropped in a team. So yeah, I think crypto is really cool for meritocracy, I would say. And you
Exactly.
cannot see this you cannot see this easily even in tech. I think in tech startups, it's much more standardized, or like, kind of checklist driven rather than,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. I think that's a great point over there, and I do think that you're really spot on there because crypto. I think that's one of the things that was most attractive for me. Like the fact that, just like you said, it's based on merit. Like no one cares, like who you are. No one cares if you even show
Yes.
your face. You can. No
No
one
one
cares
cares
if
if you have a
if
Milady
you
or a
show your
Penguin
name.
or whatever.
Yeah, like who cares? Can you deliver the job? Can you do it
Yes.
like it should be? Do it, and no one will ask you for anything else. And I think that
Yeah.
I think it really resonates with the freedom that our industry has set out to
Hmm.
create. Because if it's about financial freedom and new instruments of just like being more liberated from
Yes.
so many of the stuff that binds us in our
I give you
society.
an example as the person that handles as a CEO handle HR at Brahma, right? But if I wanted to hire somebody in a normal tech company and pay them without crypto rails, it would not even be possible. So like we have countries in the team where it's really hard to even relay normal payments, and then you could do it easily with crypto and USDC in like, no fuss. But I know friends that want to hire in startups in any type of location that maybe TransferWise is not set up or other ways, and they cannot, and they need to use like remote.com and this kind of company for remote hiring, which again have a set of countries, like they won't cover countries that you might want to hire in. So like, because you're hiring in crypto, the people should be comfortable at least to a degree to receive crypto, obviously, and without it you couldn't pay them, so they usually are drawn to crypto
Yeah.
if they work in. Yeah, so anyways, long topic, but I totally agree with what you said. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. It actually leads me, unless you want to ask something before that, what? Because I kind of want to ask you about your the vision. Like, okay, it's amazing to see what you guys are building, and I think I'm getting like the general sense of the vision. But I'm actually very curious about, okay, where do you see console? A year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, or 7 years at the end of the decade? Like, what are you actually planning over there or hoping for? Where should we expect console to be in a few years? What are you aiming at?
So our aim is to for sure exist, not like other protocols who
Good
built
point.
on hype and just disappear. That's why we are taking very calculated approach there, right? On whatever we do, our basic focus is security. Because if you mess up like security, like everything is messed up. So most of the protocols that we learn from is like you cannot like be very you cannot get like the ego in place and keep on shipping without undermining the security. So that's our first focus, that be secure for any interaction that the user does, so they don't lose money at never lose money. So that's our focus first. We think like DeFi will be multiples of what it is today, and there'll be lot of users coming in, lot of capital coming in, and we want console and Brahma to be uh, like that layer where capital flows from towards each and every protocol which is out there. So I don't know about like 7 years. I don't know how the 7 years will look like, but every day what we are working towards is the capital that flows in DeFi, it should flow through console, and that's the vision we are working towards.
I had just one thought is that when you look at trading in any financial market and just financial transactions, they are not done with this many steps of manual input. Like as we said, most traders execute through an API or through a third party that actually uses an API. So like there's no professional tooling for execution on chain, correct? Like wallets are not. Wallets are the default way to connect today, but eventually we need really better ways to interact with on-chain executing, controlling the execution, understanding it, and security standards. So it's a huge endeavor, but clearly like nobody, like we're not, like in 5 years, this is going to look completely different than today. The same way that we were talking about multiple layer ones and whatever in 3 years ago with white papers. And now at least everything is built out to the point that you can try it, you know? Like nobody knows really if they will scale, there's some centralization. So like UX of crypto interaction will change drastically, and we want to be the best place to execute on chain. That's why we don't do initially like other stuff. Like we try to focus only on the on chain UX, correct? And so that's where we're gonna be. Hopefully, like one of the top 3 choice always for you to choose if you are a team or individual starting to execute seriously on chain. Like Brahma and Console should be like up there always.
No,
The forefront of crypto UX.
Yep, pretty much an execution, and we have to find the right keywords.
Just DeFi actually, not crypto, just DeFi.
DeFi.
No NFT,
Okay.
Sure.
DeFi.
The advisor, you had another thing that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, something that I really like asking the teams, because it's actually one of the things that I'm most curious about. What kind of advice would you guys give to new builders or builders within the space, like from your experience? Because just like you've shared with us, like so, and thanks a lot for doing it for sure. From like the whole process and like what you've built, you've been through probably so many like changes, challenges, whatever. What are like the few like I don't know advices that you would actually give a young builder within the space? What should they focus on? Whatever you guys think. You're the builders. They better listen to your advice than mine. That's for sure.
I think like as a team we really focus on like first of all what we are building, so the reputation, right? uh, uh, like it's very hard to like focus on what to build, seeing like a lot of like for example right now infrastructure happening, lot of dex is being launched, and it's very easy to raise money. And if you're a really serious builder, you'll see that it's very easy to raise money. You jump on a narrative and you kind of push out a very subpar product, and that's like most of the products out there, which are just pushing because it's just narrative and like people are putting money, throwing money at them. So I guess like if you're like really serious, you kind of need to shut it out, cut off all that like noise, which I have to call it, and focus on what you actually want to build. If you're not interested in building in crypto, don't. If you're interested in like just making money, okay, then you're basically building like whatever. But if you're like legit builder, you kind of need to cut out the noise and kind of fix a problem, like stick to a problem and fix it. For example, for us, it was like interacting with DeFi. So we thought Vault is the best option to fix it. Then we figured, okay, Vault is not the most optimal way to fix it. And now we are thinking our bet is on how console has been built. So we just need to stick to a problem. It's not like 1 or 2 years like journey. It's much more. And in crypto, people think like, oh, you launch a product and you're rich in 2 3 months. That's what happens with these products, but they kind of die, and no one remembers them. So that's what we are trying to like kind of ignore in terms of noise.
That's
Yeah.
a great advice, actually. Go ahead,
think,
Alessandro. Go ahead.
No, I was saying literally what Kaku said, and as he said, like there's so much stimuli from the market. Like if anybody built longer than 2 years in DeFi, it means that they went through a bull and bear, right? So we have so many examples. Like we hire some people that come from outside of the crypto world, and they come in a bull market, and there's this euphoria. Then there's the bear, and they're like, oh my god, what's happening? But what you're doing is literally shipping a product that you know it's there for the future of the industry, correct? Like so it's I don't have any comparative. Like probably people building in financial markets in 2008, for example, and they were building like whatever, like trading infra, and then 2008 happens, and they're like, okay, I'm building for nobody, and they lose hope. And the other way, on the way up, you have this emotional roller coaster of, oh, I'm building a product and sticking my head at it, while there's people trading meme coins and making money. And you have to understand that you have a vision of what you want to get built. So like Console is a good example because it's not a quick and easy front end fork of a DEX launch on another chain. It's a project that took us X amount of people, X amount of months, like almost a year to get to this stage. So if us as founder didn't have conviction, or the future founder you advise, but also the team with it didn't have conviction, it all falls apart. So like, it's a mix of you having conviction as a founder, but also getting the right team and like manage to keep them aligned even in a shit market or in a bull market where attention can really get diluted. Yeah, so.
Definitely
No, that's some
separate the
great
signal
advice.
from the noise, and I think that just like Kaku said, like if you really identify an issue and a problem that you're trying to solve and you go for it, and not even just in crypto, but in anything in business and life, if you see a problem and you really go for fixing it, usually you will be rewarded in different ways, because if you solve a problem that like influence the life of many people, they want it. They will just choose your solution, especially if it's the best. And honestly, I think you guys are working on something that is very integral to the industry, because I think that one of the things that we're lagging the most is the whole DeFi UX stuff. I really think that the how do you say that, like the barrier, what's that word in English, like
Barrier
The
to
barrier,
entry.
yeah,
yeah,
very jointly.
the barrier to enter is still like, when I try to tell a normie friend about some kind of crypto or DeFi opportunity, I still just get that look that what this guy just said, and I was like, okay, never mind. Let me talk to you in about 6 months, and in 6 months, and see if something changes. But I really think that these exact tools, like you're building, that will change our industry on the UX front, is also a very important and integral part that has still not yet really been addressed. And much respect for you guys for actually addressing that problem so seriously like you guys do. And wish you guys a lot of luck and success, and looking forward to like seeing it, catching up with you, hopefully maybe on the Daily Leviathan show, whenever you have some updates or launch, feel
For
free to
sure.
let us know and connect. Honestly, an honor. And by the way, guys, where can people find you? Where should they follow Console? Who should they approach? How should they get involved? Like, give us like shill your addresses for a minute.
No, easy, but easy, like Brahma.fi and then like BRAHMA.fi or Brahma.fi on Twitter. And then like there you find the updates. And if you go for the whitelisting, just mention also the show or whatever you heard it on. And we just whitelist people on a weekly basis to try. And like ideally we're looking for users like you, people that actually had interacted with DeFi and like Waj give us immediate feedback, like he has a keen eye, like
Listen,
we'll ideally
Watch is
exactly
so good, man.
we ideally hope to find people like you just to get started with the product and kind of give us feedback and then build the features that the 10% like Kaku mentioned need, and that will translate to optionality and feature rich set of Console in 6 months for the general clients. So yeah.
That's great. And yeah, you're right about Watch, by the way. This guy uses like, I don't know, 5-6 new dApps a day. He tells me about this, he tells me about that. He's not like, he's something else. He's something else. And I think
The
that's,
advisor, I
that's a
told you
good
you're
point.
gonna like Console. I told you you're gonna like Console.
Yeah, man. That's actually was a great choice of guests. We were honestly a lot of fun, guys. Anything else you guys
Likewise.
think you want to touch on, share that we...
No, I think thanks for having us on, and thanks for also like trying your hands at the product. So we'll love to stay in touch and show you all the new updates and also get feedback from you and the viewers. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
sure.
definitely.
Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot,
guys.
everyone. Thanks a lot, Kaku, Alessandro, Waj, my lovely co-host. Thank you very much as well. And for everyone tuning in, much respect. Go try out Console. Honestly, seems like a very interesting development within the DeFi UX narrative or space, or however we can call it. and looking forward on catching up with you as developments come. And a lot of luck, guys. Really, much respect for the work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Sure, guys. Bye, folks,
Bye.
and send it. Send it, everyone.
Send it.